Welcome to our NDL podcast for the week. We are without our host. What happened? He is
life in Hawaii.
He's out on vacation, enjoying life in Hawaii without us. Thanks a lot, Jason.
What a punk.
Thanks for the non-invite. I thought this was going to be a podcast trip. You're all talking about it, but I guess not. So Mitch, how you doing?
Doing
How's life?
well. Doing well. It's a good day. Played golf, taught, and home on the podcast.
Very nice. Very nice. Justin,
Ask
still with
me.
the stash,
Ask me again in 6 outs how I'm doing.
6 outs.
Yeah.
So
Braves need
watching
6 outs to
the
win.
game, huh?
Yeah. I'll fill in for Jason for 1 second. Kept the mustache in his honor. It'll probably be gone next week. And Mitch, what hat are you wearing?
This is another Aaron Hills hat. This is a caddy hat. Just
Nice.
standard garb for the job.
Very cool.
I like this one.
I like that one too. It's sleek. It's calm.
Yeah, clean. Just
Worn some much busier ones, but this one's nice.
So Justin, so I know, it's obvious why I'm an Astros fan, but how'd you become a Braves fan living in Utah?
Yeah, so I got this question yesterday from a friend of mine because a Braves and an Eagles fan, since the Braves are playing the Phillies right now, it's conflicting. My message boards for the Eagles are all, fuck the Braves, go Phillies. And so it's a conflicting weekend I'm living. Basically, it goes down to when I was a kid, the Braves played on TBS every day in the summer. They would just show the games. And so I was watching them as a kid and I liked them and I still like them. Nothing deep. We don't have it.
What about Philly?
The Eagles.
Same thing?
My dad went to BYU and loved Andy Reid because of that. So Andy Reid was coaching him when I was a child. We watched Eagles games for that reason, and then I stuck with the team.
Nice.
And I hate Broncos fans. No offense, Renee. You are swell, but in general, they bug me.
So is that what the Utes usually root for, is Denver? Because you really don't have a team up there, right?
I would say it's probably 40% Broncos fans and 60% miscellaneous.
Okay.
A lot of people my age are Patriots fans because of bandwagon, just because the dynasties were going on. I was in junior high, but they're fake.
gross.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of switch this up, because Jason's away, so we will play. So we're gonna just kind of toss up some different ideas and for the podcast. So we're not really gonna dive too deep into each of the leagues because nothing's really changed. I mean, the people that are winning are still winning. There's still some opportunity for teams to trade and try to help their team, but it really hasn't changed. So we'll probably get back into it next week, dive a little bit deeper, because we'll be about halfway through the season and they'll start looking, kind of start seeing who's going to make it, who has a chance, who doesn't have a chance, things like that. So we'll kind of get back into that. So we're going to start a little different also on we're not going to talk about our trade targets this week. And what we're going to talk about is players that have been big disappointments for the year. So we each have a player that has been had disappointed us this season. So we'll kind of talk about that and kind of give some insight on how we think, if they're going to continue this trend or if we think they're going to get better. We'll kind of roundtable that. And then we'll kind of talk about some different topics that have been brought up on Discord and we'll kind of go and kind of have debates on that live. So it's going to be a little bit different this week. So once Jason gets back, we'll kind of get back to the normal, but figure we'd throw a little a wrench in the regular plans and hope you enjoy it. there. So what shirt are you wearing? I see a butterfly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's standard butterfly. Butterfly on the sleeves.
Ah. Is that a
I
brand
like butterfly.
type of brand or what?
No, I got it at Ross. Just has butterflies. I wanted a long sleeve shirt. It's getting chilly, and I think I like butterflies and bumblebees and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, why not?
All right.
Yeah, doesn't always have to
Sounds
be
good.
nerdy and insulting when Jason's not here. Damn, try to wear something.
Figure I had to mess with you a little bit.
No, for
What
sure.
you
I
wearing?
did specifically pick a butterfly shirt, assuming it would get some kind of comment. So I can't lie.
All right. So who wants to kick this off as far as our disappointment so far for the year?
I'll
I'll
go.
go. Oh, Mitch will go.
I'll go. I had high hopes for this guy. He had a fantastic week 1. I was really hyped for him all of July and August. I just thought he was going to absolutely break out. QB change. Thought it was all for the better. Michael Pittman has really let me down this year. So in redraft, quite the disappointment. Dynasty, obviously Dynasty extends to more than 1 year, but I thought he was going to be putting up wide receiver 1 numbers most of the year. I don't even think he's in the top 24 right now. He has just really suffered from a bad QB and a bad O-line. Matt Ryan has not done what I thought he was going to do this year. I really thought he was going to have a good year too. And I thought him and Michael Pittman would connect in a similar way that Ryan and Calvin Ridley did a few years ago. And that's just not happening. Maybe I was foolish. Maybe I was wrong. I don't know, but I do think there's time for him to turn it around. He's still young. He's like 24. So he's got his whole career ahead of him. But right now I feel a little burned. I did trade away the 104 this year for Michael Pittman in like August. So the 104 ended up being like Drake London or something, Chris Olave. So I basically traded one of those guys away for Michael Pittman, and it hurts a little right now. Not gonna lie. But I believe he can turn it around.
Yeah, it's been, I think that whole offense has been disappointing in Indy. They're the Texans tied when they played them. So they got beat by Jacksonville. So I don't know what's going on. So seems like they took a step back. So who would have thought trading away Wentz, you were in a worse situation now?
Yeah.
Right.
So, what about you, Justin?
All NFC East quarterbacks and touchdown passes.
Exactly.
Next is 10, second place is 4. So you never know.
So who you got, Justin?
All right. So unlike Mitch's guy of Michael Pittman, who I think we believe he can turn it around and end up having a good season. The guy I have is someone I don't believe can turn it around, and that's Naji Harris. For me, this is a conflicting one because I told Adrian I was going to brag about it a bit because he's the one guy I truly avoided across all formats. Best ball, redraft, dynasty this year. I was out on him because the offensive line has gotten a little bit worse. They got yet another pass catcher in there who's solid in Pickens, sorry. And then they lost Ben Roethlisberger, who was just the check down king last year. He was always volume dependent. He needed a bunch of attempts, a bunch of catches in order to give you a good week because he was never really having consistent rushes of 5 or more yards. It was all just high volume stuff. This year, since Pickett's taken over, he's gotten, I think, 4 catches in 6 quarters with him, which isn't going to be enough. And he also seems to be a little bit banged up. Tomlin today said they're going to lighten his load a little bit and give the backup some more work, which when you have a guy who's so dependent on volume, that's obviously just going to make him that much worse, even going down the stretch of this season.
Something I did not want to hear because I just traded for Naji Harris. Actually had an offer. I traded away Derrick Henry and got Naji Harris and another piece. But
it's redraft or dynasty?
Dynasty. So I mean, it's not as
Still
bad
might
dynasty.
win that one in the long run, but like,
Yeah.
unless the Steelers really fix that line over the next couple of years, I don't see it getting much better.
Yeah.
I don't have any shares of Najee Harris, kind of on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking through my dreams, like I got nothing. don't
I
have
didn't
any.
until I just traded for him. So my first share of him. So I think, I mean, the quarterback situation there is not very well, very good either. So that's not going to help a running back. So if a defense is not afraid of the quarterback, they're just going to stack the line, and it just hurts.
Yeah,
Definitely hurts
especially where
the running
the
back.
new quarterback, he can use his legs a little bit.
Yeah.
They've got Deontay Johnson and Pat Fryermuth who love, those 10-yard outs, easy dump offs if needs be. And then that's, not a lot left over for Najee.
No.
Good take.
And I think Pittman too. I still like Pittman. I think he's going to be the man there. And I think they'll turn it around. I mean, Frank Reich, he's kind of offensive genius, kind of QB guru in a way. So I think
Are we sure?
I think
Like, I know
so.
he was. He went great, being an Eagles fan, I watched him a lot, but he's handpicked a quarterback twice with Wentz and Ryan, and so far, no good.
Yeah. He kind of got a raw deal when Luck retired.
Yeah, that was bad. But he didn't show up there until after Luck retired, right?
I think he showed up the
2018.
year he retired.
Okay, was that the same
So-
year?
Yeah. So he took over, and then Luck was like, yep, I'm gone. So
Even Luck, if that's true, which I don't remember, I'll take your word for it. Even Luck knows he's not a QB guru. But I'm out of here.
yeah, so I think he's had some bad luck. I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't know which other quarterback. I mean, Garoppolo, maybe.
Yeah. I think they just got to stop trying the old quarterback thing and
Yeah.
try to
I mean,
get young.
eventually they're going to draft one, but I just don't think they had the capital to get a
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah.
So my guy is DJ Moore, and I was very high on this guy at the beginning of the season. One, because I thought Baker Mayfield was going to do a lot better than he's doing. And with DJ Moore kind of being that slot type receiver, kind of, he can be a deep threat, but I think he's more of those short passes and volume. He really hasn't been getting the volume. He started off, I think, week 1 with like 8 points, and it was disappointing. And then next week he scored a little bit more. He scored a touchdown. So you got excited. And then the week after that, he had 1 reception for 2 yards. Like, what is going on? So he's kind of been a disappointment. I thought he would be a target machine and a reception machine this year. Still young at 25 years old. And I know in a lot of the leagues, that's one person I was definitely aiming for, trying to get is DJ Moore, just because I think a lot of people or teams, managers weren't as high on him. I think because of what's going on in Carolina, they just haven't been able to get it together. So I was trying to buy low with him, hoping that'd make a difference. Baker would make a difference, but I still have hope because they fired their coach. So we'll see what happens. Maybe there's some hope still for DJ Moore this season. So I don't think Baker's a bad quarterback per se. I mean, I think he did okay in Cleveland, but I don't know if their offensive philosophy was something for him. I guess for any of the quarterbacks. I mean, you go Sam Darnold. I mean, he looked good when he was with the Jets, but I mean, the Jets were kind of a mess. So I think Darnold is a decent quarterback as well. I just think they're in the wrong situation.
Yeah, is wrong or is right
No.
is always about Najee. I was just wrong about DJ Moore. I was high on him too. It's been a bummer. I also saw, I believe I saw a stat today that said through 4 games, Baker Mayfield has the worst QBR in the NFL since Jamarcus Russell, which that's not
Yeah.
great.
And if you think a team can make a quarterback, go ask Russell Wilson, see what he thinks.
That's right.
I mean, Gino's looking good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
He ain't right back. That's why.
So what do
Do
we
you
got?
think- Sorry, Adrian. Do you think that DJ Moore can turn around this season, or is that more of a long-term outlook for you?
Well, I'm hoping he turned around in this season. I
You
think he
had
can.
me
There's
bet.
just too many unknowns right now. I mean, PJ Walker's not the answer, obviously,
Yeah, fair.
there. Even though I liked him because he was in the team for Texas or for Houston in that XFL. He was a quarterback there and he did real well before that went away. So I like PJ Walker. But I think Baker can still do okay. I think with the different regime. So, I mean, they drafted a lineman. They're still not protecting very well. If they can get Christian McCaffrey going, and I think that will help the quarterback a lot.
Is DJ Moore somebody that you would target? Like, is it something, I mean, like, I know you were hyped in the off season, so maybe you were targeting then, but like right now, are you thinking this is somebody I want on my team? Or are you thinking this is somebody I would like to trade away?
No, I would still like to trade for him because I think, I mean, he's young. So he definitely has the talent. So, but it just depends on what for, you know.
This is,
Would I give away the 104? No.
oops.
If I have a team that I think is contending this year, I'm not trying to get him, but I
Right.
think he's the perfect target for a team that's in a rebuild, not winning anything this year. He's a perfect piece to try and get and be like, maybe he turns into what we thought he could be
Right.
next year after.
So you said he was young. This is kind of off the cuff here. Was he 25?
25.
Yeah, is he turning 26 this season?
He will be 26 in April.
Okay. When does young become old for a wide receiver?
I think old
Good
is
question.
20, old is 29, young is 25, 26 to 28 is like regular in my brain.
Peak career, maybe.
Yeah.
So
That's how I see it, kind of.
And then, like, would you treat somebody different if they were 27 with, I don't know, 3 years in the NFL versus somebody who's 27, I mean, or 25 with 3 years in the NFL? I mean, they have the same experience, but the one guy's 2 years older. I mean, like, are those?
Yeah,
are
I
those
don't know if
the
people
same
look
in
at
your
the
head?
experience really
I
on the
would.
trades. I think they just look
Yup.
at the,
You've got that much less prime left,
yeah.
like at least prime physical abilities.
Okay, interesting.
Like I'm way past my prime at 29.
Somebody that I see every now and again is Calvin Ridley, who's 28, I think, or
Yeah.
27, just turned 28. And I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh, he's too old. I
Yeah,
was like, well,
I get that a lot.
he hasn't played in a year and a half, so it's not like he's got 7 years of getting beat around in the NFL. Is there a world where you look at somebody like that and you're like, oh, well, they are 28, but they are, a year and a half break, basically. Can we treat
Yeah.
them as younger? Just kind of I think
The
about
guy,
it.
hard to compare. We've never seen someone do this before. Be awesome, leave for a year and a half, and then
Come back and
be
still be
awesome.
awesome.
You've seen guys try, like, but it's usually for, like Josh Gordon type suspensions. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see what Calvin can do next year.
But
Okay.
but a good example, Cooper Kupp is 29.
Yeah.
He'll be 30 in June.
Old.
Yeah.
Best career,
So
best
I mean, it's
best year at 28.
yeah. So but he's still producing numbers,
Right.
and
It also
he's
depends
probably,
on the type of receiver they are, right? If he's a tactician route runner, he's probably gonna, like Keenan Allen, we're seeing still do in his 30s. Probably
Yeah.
gonna age better than a guy who just solely relies on athleticism.
Interesting.
but that's
Okay.
a good point you brought up. Yeah. I think running backs are young, like the range is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Way different.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean, a
24 to 26.
25-year-old running back is getting old.
Yeah. Like Nick Chubb is like
It's
ancient.
crazy.
It's like he's 26. I'm 26. I'm not old. But I look at him, I'm like, he's old and
And then we look at Adrian Peterson and he was still producing some.
36. He was playing. So yeah,
They're
that is kind of
28 or so, right? And he's still doing it.
Who's that?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara's 27, Austin
Oh.
Eckler's 27. They're all going to be turning 28.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the one thing that comes up a lot when I'm trying to trade, like if you're tanking or whatever. It's like, oh, that guy's too old, and it's like he's 26.
Yeah.
Like you're telling me you're trying to win now, and you don't want a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, because they're too old, or you're trying to tank for young players, and so you're looking at 21 and 22-year-olds only. Like, I don't know.
People will reach for those guys when they're actually competing. Like if
Yeah.
their record is good and they want to win, then
Yep.
they'll start trading for those guys.
For those guys.
Now
yeah.
is about the time to try and sell them.
Yeah.
The
Right.
Brandon Cooks, the Robert Woods of years past. Those are the guys you can hold on to and get a decent bit for.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah. So now we'll move into some questions, some debate topics. So I know Justin, you have some topics that you wanted to bring up.
I do. The Discord gets hot. If you're not in there with us yet, come join. We have a lot of fun. We also kind of hate each other, which is also fun.
No, we just hate Jason K.
So I pulled,
And
it's
Joe.
fair. I pulled most of these topics from debates people have had in the Discord. Before we do that though, if there were 2-3 trades in our leagues, if you want to touch on them real quick,
Yeah, let's do that.
we'll dive into these to finish off the episode. In the NFL, we had just one trade in the AFC. Carmen, who owns the Dolphins, traded with Jim Leahy. Jim gave up Cordarrelle Patterson to Carmen for 2023 second. So Cordarrelle's hurt right now, obviously. I think we all expect when he gets back to take over that backfield again, and he's a nice piece, in my opinion, at least. That's old, 31-year-old running.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, like you said, when you get to this point of the season, people kind of stop caring about age and they just want players who are going to help them produce. I personally like it. I think Patterson's going to be solid at the end of the year. Last year, we saw him fade because of workload, but I think having these 4 weeks off will hopefully negate that if you're a Patterson owner.
And once Ritter starts, and even be better because he'll get more of those runs that Mariota's getting.
Now, there's a topic we can add real quick at the end. What are you willing to pay to get your guy? Because you two are both notorious get your guy guys.
Oh, I'm a big get your guy.
And Adrian just did a get your guy trade we can touch on in the next part.
There were 2 trades in JB. One of them was Bailey Zapp for a 23 third. That's pretty
Who did that?
disgusting.
Who did that?
Was Zach and
Yes.
Van. Van got the 23 third. I think he wins that trade.
Does Zach own Mac Jones?
Yes,
I
I think he does.
Yeah.
That
he's
helps a
got-
bit.
I think he's got him and
Yeah, he's
Baker.
got Mac Jones, Baker Mayfield, Skylar Thompson, and now Bailey Zapp.
Ugh.
also have 2 starters for this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to pay for a guy who's never going to play outside of last week and next week. But
I think so too. So
in a
nice.
super flex league, having a guy to start for a third, I mean, I don't know.
And it's a
that's
12
I don't
team,
care
it's a
about.
12 team league, so it makes it, I
Yeah,
think, even better.
yeah. Is that a trade I would have done? Probably not. Is a trade that disgusts me? Also not. It's just whatever.
Yeah, kind of boring. The other trade in JB was kind of spicy. This was between I forget these names. This was Nick, the Buccaneers. Nick gave up Alan Lazard, a 2023 first, a 2023 second, and a 2023 fourth for Amon Ra from Nilo.
Hmm,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
spicy.
that is a lot to give up. In Nick's defense, he's winning right now and wants to add another strong piece, but Alan Lazard was a strong-ish piece. I don't think the dynasty move is good. You're getting a younger guy who's looking like a stud, but the win now move for me is
Yeah.
not
Amon-
lateral, but it's not for what you gave up.
Yeah, Amon Ra he has a higher ceiling, I think, and that's probably what he's going for. Where Lazard is kind of just mediocre, you
Yeah,
know.
Lazard's your rock steady back end wide receiver too. High end
11 fantasy
maybe.
points a week.
But yeah, Amon-Ra, that's one where,
I mean, Amon-Ra can put up 30 points.
yeah, they have the bye this week. You imagine he'll come back at full strength. I'd like to see what it looks like after Jameson Williams gets back, but I've notoriously been low on Amon-Ra, selling him way undervalued on accident. So
Yeah.
I love Amon-Ra now. I think I'm overcompensating, but I do think Lazard's been rock solid this year. So
Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad trade. I mean, for either side. I mean, I think that's good value for Amon-Ra.
Great
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
And the dude's tanking. He's 1-5. So
Yeah.
he's getting first and second round picks for next year, which everybody's like jacked about next year's draft class. So,
and you know what? Lazard might be one of those guys, and 1-2 weeks he keeps putting up numbers, you could flip for another first. You could
yeah,
flip a second.
exactly. And you know, this might be a case of Nick going and getting his guy, which I can't, you know, can't blame him. if you like the guy and you're like, here's Alan Lazard a first and a second, I don't want those picks, I want Amon-Ra. Then you got, I mean, then it's a win-win. So
Are you drinking a White Claw? Is that what I saw?
Hell yeah, brother. It's fall, bro. I'm gonna do as I please. Wear my butterfly shirt, got a mango White Claw.
dude is living it up right now.
I'm watching my figure.
Love it.
Been
Love it.
exercising. I'm trying to keep beer out of the belly, except on Sundays.
Your mentality right now is my mentality in Dynasty. It's like, I don't care. I like the guy. Say all you want.
Yeah, I got my guy.
I got him. He's mine and I'm happy.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
So that's
Sorry
it.
for
So
the
no
long
more
chat.
trades. So you
Yeah.
guys, please, I mean, now's the time to start trading. One, if you're right in the middle and you have a chance to maybe not win the division, but there's still wild cards. So
Oh yeah.
you got to make a move. Make a move now before it gets too late, because there's other teams that are tanking that you're never going to catch up to on the tank side. So might as well try to make a couple moves to get you in contention and give us something to talk about. So trades. I mean, I can't believe Zach actually made a trade.
He's been active this year. He's made a few trades.
He made a trade with me in GA at the beginning of the year.
It's been
Did he
weird.
really?
Yeah. Shout out
Good
Zach.
job, Jack. Good
Jason might
job,
today. We're gonna
Zach.
compliment you instead of insult you.
Yeah.
All right, so that takes us to our first question of the day, which is it okay to make fun of your commissioner?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that one's settled. Second, so the most hotly debated, I would say, dynasty question we've had in Discord this year has been deemed the Jason K style of tanking. Basically, I guess ethically, is it okay to not field a full roster when there are, let's say you don't have a tight end, but there's a tight end available on waivers, you don't pick them up, or there's a quarterback available on waivers, you don't pick up. So you're not starting a full team. Adrian, what are your thoughts on that?
So I know I've stressed this on Discord, and I know that I'm probably to the extreme on this one, but I do not like it personally. I mean, I think, and I get there's a fine line. There's a lot of gray areas there. So I know tanking is okay, but then I think this type of tanking is not okay, because I mean, if we take the you know, the precedence that this is like an NFL team, you know, type thing, they're not going to just throw somebody out there like a running back to play quarterback, even though it's happened a couple times. But they're not going to throw a running back out there because they have no quarterback to start, you know? So it's just, to me, it doesn't make sense, because I mean, you got to put a player there that's going to actually do something, right? So putting a backup quarterback as your quarterback to play is kind of like an NFL team playing without a quarterback, because you're not getting any points from that position. So yes, I think you should fill that spot with a actual person that is going to have some points, whether they get points that week or not. But I think you should be able to. Now, I know he's got a quarterback on taxi. He's got Trevor Lawrence, and he doesn't want to promote him. And I know that they don't have to promote him. But I think that ethically, I think, yeah. I mean, he should at least have a quarterback there that's actually playing and, or promote your guy. I mean, he's still going to get first pick. I mean, because he has nothing else. But, you know, just fill out your roster. That's my thought. Fill out your roster and make it at least tough for some people, because other teams have the expectation. I mean, they want to, like, if there's a neck and neck battle for first and second, and then one guy says, "Oh, I'm playing Jason this week." I mean, that's kind of not fair when his team only scores 26 points, you know? So
What do you
to me,
think,
it's
Ben?
not ethical.
I'm looking at his roster and I'm seeing 2 QBs that are suiting up every week. I'm seeing running backs that are suiting up uniform helmets every week, wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses. I look at this as a full team. Is it a garbage team? Yeah, 100%. Are they going to score 26 points a week? Every week. But within the way, you know, for this particular league, you don't have to start a starting running back. You don't have to start a starting QB. I think it's great. Does it kind of suck for some people? Yeah. But if you had to play this guy, you wouldn't be upset about it. Personally, I'd be like, oh, great, Jason K week, awesome. You know, another win. I'm moving on.
Another
like,
bye week.
Another bye week, basically. I mean, you got teams in the NFL. People got to play the Commanders. Rest of the NFL is not like saying they're like, oh yeah, you can't do that. You can't lose that many games. You know, you can't do that. People got to play. I guess the Lions are trying to win games, but they're not very good at it. So I would take the stance that what he's doing is good, especially with the way potential points is suited. Keep those guys on taxi. You don't want to risk anything. You don't want to promote guys and all of a sudden, you know, guys start scoring a lot of points. I'm not seeing anybody on his taxi squad. I mean, Brees Hall, you know, Jerry Jeudy could maybe break out, and right now we're 6 weeks in or we're 5 weeks in, and so he's kind of got that locked up. He's not going to go on some terrible run, but leaving yourself the cap flexibility, a guy on taxi, in my opinion, is more valuable on taxi, because then you can trade him to other people. He doesn't count against your cap dollars and he doesn't count against your potential points. So if you're dynasty and you're tanking and you're starting guys that are on NFL teams and are suiting up every week, I think it's totally fine.
You know what? And I get your point, but the thing is, if you're going to tank this way, you're not going to be able to build a team next year. I mean, it's going to take you probably a couple. He's got 3 firsts. He's got 3 seconds. And nobody, I mean, he's got some taxi players, but I mean, you just got rid of pretty much everybody that can score points.
I would agree. He's not going to be in contention next year.
Yeah.
Like would I personally do this? Would I trade away every player that scores any points at all? Probably not, because the comeback from that is like a 3-year process where most of your picks probably aren't going to hit. Somebody like right now, like Sky Moore was going like 110, 111, 112. You know, one of his first round picks is going to be there, and you're not going to get any production out of that guy, you know, right away. I guess time will tell, but if you do this, you're committing to, like, I would say at least 3 years of this being in the tank, and hoping that those picks pan out. You'll get a guaranteed first round pick. You know, you'll get the 101, but one guy cannot. It's just not going to change your team. It looks like he had the 101 this year because he has Brees Hall. And I think there's even rules about how long people can be on taxi, and there's also limits to how many people you can have on taxi. So like this can bite you in the butt. You can end up with too many picks, and then having to promote guys and then promoting them for their rookie prices. And then they're way overpaid because they didn't pan out. And now you got guys that are worth, you know, like, I think this will bite him in the butt for sure, but I think it's totally legal and he should be allowed to do it. And good on him for having the balls to put up 26 points a week.
It's funny. In this league, he's putting up all-time lows, and in GA, he's putting up all-time highs.
Yeah. So
I'm going to go ahead and land right in the middle here. I think leave your Trevor Lawrence, leave your Brees Hall on taxi. But go pick up Bailey Zappi. Go pick up someone who's going to be actually playing when they're available. Just because it's kind of shitty not to, but there's no rule against it. So do you, I guess.
Karma, baby.
Yeah, yeah, Jason K, I don't think it's gonna work out for you. Like you think it might. I don't know. Like you might be in a perpetual tank here. Sorry.
All right. So the next question we have, this one is, I would say, the most frequently talked about. It never gets fully like fleshed out, but the question is basically, how do you respond to a bad trade offer? Some people would call it the Ash rule. I wouldn't. Ash and I get along well. We trade a lot. I gave him Jared Goff for free. Some people call it the Joe rule. Again, I think that's not fair. I've never traded with him. We're in different leagues, but I just think that's pretty mean. So in my opinion, if somebody sends you a bad trade offer, and they're notorious for it, they're constantly sending you Patrick Mahomes, or they're trying to get Mahomes from you, and they're giving you like a late second or an early third. I just think easiest way to do it, decline, move on. If you want to go even further and just not respond, that's a little too far for me. But if you just want to leave them in that limbo because you're tired of the offers, I think that's fine as well. If they're, if they're new to the league, they're doing it for the first time, maybe you talk to them. But if they're frequent offenders, I just don't think there's any point in wasting yours or their time, because the conversation's going nowhere. What do you think, Adrian?
So I'm a big proponent of at least leaving a response. Instead of just rejecting the trade, leave a response, at least so the person who's sending a trade has an idea of, hey, this person's not for sale, or you're way off, and there's a lot of times where I get, I'm not even going to counter because we're way off. Well, most initial offers are going to be probably way off, or they're probably not going to be hit on the initial offer. But I think it's important to give some feedback to say, hey, I'm not going to trade this guy, or it's going to take a lot more, or at least send a counter. Just send a counter of, hey, I definitely won't do that, but I'll do this, and if you'll do it for this, we're good. I mean, that's how trades happen. Most trades don't happen on the initial offer. They happen because you've gone back and forth 2 or 3 times to settle on something. So I think the people that just reject trades are probably going to get a lot more trades because the person on the other end is thinking, okay, well, he rejected that one. Well, let me change it up a little bit and send this. And then it gets rejected. Okay, well, let me send this. So if you just put down that, hey, this guy's not for sale, or, I'm not interested, or I don't want to trade something, then you won't get those offers, multiple offers from Joe or Ash every week for the same guy.
So my selective hearing heard you say, don't respond at all, let it sit in your inbox and ignore them.
Is that what you heard?
I actually had, so I'm all over the place with responding to trades, but somebody sent me a trade today, Drew Lock and George Kittle for Justin Herbert and Dawson Knox. And I like auto rejected, but I left a comment and I was like, there's just no way I can sell Herbert for that cheap.
That's perfect.
Like I'm not going to do that. Like, not opposed to trading him, I
Don't
guess.
have time to look for a counter, but
Yeah, well, and to me, that's a situation where I look at it, I'm like, I'm not going to counter. I don't want George Kittle. I don't want Drew Lock. I'm just going to reject that trade and say, yeah, no chance.
2 things. 1, you heard it here first. Mitch, the 49ers fan, hates George Kittle. 2, excuse me. 2, just ignore it. Just decline, no comment, move on. Is that insulting? I think that's the easiest way to do it.
I got a question for you both about this, and I'm an offender on this topic. I do this sometimes, mostly because I get frustrated that people aren't accepting my horrible trade. But I'll send a trade for somebody like, I don't know, let's say Hunter Renfrow. Let's say I really want Hunter Renfrow, and the guy I'm trying to get him from is a big Hunter Renfroe fan. Won't trade him to me for my first offer. I do this and I shouldn't. And I don't think you should, but don't start bad mouthing the player that you're trying to trade for. Don't start being like, well, he's not as good as you think he is. You need to adjust your price. You know, you need to come down to my level where I think he's worthless and I'm trying to get him off you for like dirt cheap. That to me is like a huge, like, yeah, no, I'm definitely not going to trade that guy. I've had
You
that
mean like
happen to me and I've
what
done
Jake
that. to
does? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I'm with you there, Mitch. If that's the case, I really want somebody, I talk up the guy I'm offering, but don't, if you talk down the other guy, they're just gonna double down and be like, yeah, I definitely want to keep him.
Yeah. So
Or if you don't think he's that good, why would I trade him to you? et cetera.
that's happened to me and I've done that. And like, that's a bad thing to do.
All right, here's another related kind of side topic. We're just gonna keep riffing, I guess. What are your thoughts on, you get an offer you find insulting, so you send back an offer you think's equally insulting in your favor as a counter? No words. You just send a counter that's equally insulting the other way.
I do that. Yeah, 100%. Like if you're gonna like, I do that. I got no problem with that. Maybe they'll accept it.
You look a little more hesitant on that one. What about you?
no, I don't. I mean,
So you're
because
sure.
I've had that happen before and it just pisses me off. So it's just like, dude, I mean, let's come to agreement. I mean, yes, my offer might have been trash, but you know, at least give me something, some feedback, so I know how high you are on the guy, or you know, if you're low on the guy. I need some feedback to see how you value that guy.
So would
So
you prefer that, the insulting offer redirect, or just the decline with no comment?
I think if they decline with no comment, they're going to get another offer. So,
I also think you can use the counter as like an opportunity to like say, look, if you want this guy, like you need
This
to
is what it's
pay
gonna take.
more than
Yeah.
what you just offered. Like what you offered me is nothing. And it would be like if I asked for this much from you, like I guess I use that sometimes as pettiness, but sometimes be like I've had people try and get Justin Herbert from me. It's like, yeah, like you know, it's gonna need more than the first and the fringe wide receiver. Like I'm sorry, like it's just not even close. You know, I'm gonna need a stud and some picks and another stud. And
But at
that's
least that
not
person will know.
well, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily because that's what I value Justin Herbert at, you know, but it's like if I'm gonna lose this guy, I need to win the trade because I love this guy. And so just know what you're in for. I'm not gonna trade him away if I don't think I'm winning this trade by a lot. Should I type that out? Maybe. Instead, I just send an insulting offer back.
That's interesting. I like hearing.
And actually, there's one guy in one of my leagues that always sends insulting offers back, and I refuse to trade with him now. I will not trade with him at all.
That makes sense why I haven't gotten a trade offer from me in GA recently.
You need some good players on your team.
I got another thing that I notice about trades. I didn't really think about it, but like what I see a lot of is people overvalue their own players and undervalue other people's players. And it seems like everybody does that. And everybody is also at the same time shocked that everybody else is doing that.
Right.
You guys run into that?
So the way I think of it, nobody wants to lose a trade. It
Right,
feels
right.
shitty when you accept a trade and it's, you know, everyone makes fun of you for it. Something I've had to kind of teach myself being a fairly new dynasty player compared to most is it's okay to lose a trade occasionally, for many reasons. One, you know, you build relationships with other players, which can help you later. Is that maybe a little more fairy tale and not possible? Sure. But two, if you're holding a player who's really good, but your team sucks, like a Christian McCaffrey, but you're going nowhere, what good is that player going to do you this year or even next year? Even if the alternative is you sell him, but maybe you sell him a little undervalue, that's still going to help your team more than keeping someone like McCaffrey would. So you're going to get made fun of, sure, but you're probably going to be better off because of it in a case like that.
I would say ego comes into play in trades way more than it probably should. Like that mentality of like, I don't want to lose a trade. and I will start like, and I'm a big offender of this, like ask like Jake or Ash. Like those are people that I have conversations with a lot about trades, and I get so frustrated when I think I'm like when I think someone thinks they're trying to pull one over on me. Like I'm just like, no, like forget it, you're wrong, you're stupid, like forget this. And like that's a horrible thing. But like that, like your ego does come into play, I think, a lot, and it probably shouldn't.
Definitely. I almost exclusively lose trades, so I have no ego left.
I lose trades all the time, and I still have a big ego. So I don't know. I took a left turn somewhere.
It could be a loss in your opinion, but it could be, not bad as, somebody else looking at it, because
Right.
there's two sides to every trade and
Right.
opinion to every trade. So, I mean, as the king of trades last year in the NDL leagues, I feel like I'm pretty fair when it comes to trades. I don't win them all, but I usually end up liking it, and it's usually good for both sides. The other person liked what they got. I like what I got. Other people have their opinion that might not like what I got, but hey, it is what it is. Sometimes
Okay.
I've lost, not done well, but like given a second for Philip Lindsay, that was a bad trade on my part.
Yeah.
But
You're
at the
also
end,
better off making a fair trade than you are winning a trade, like extreme win. Because if you're extremely winning trades, and people aren't going to want to deal with you anymore if you're
Yeah.
ripping people off, essentially. And then also, you're just never really going to know how the trade is for a couple of years, especially if they involve draft picks. What's a loss now could be a win in 2 years. You never know.
Yeah.
right. I am definitely against the idea of throwing like really bad trades and be like, well, they might accept it. Like
I'll throw it out.
to me,
I
that's
don't do
like
it on purpose, but you
Like-
gotta start somewhere, I guess.
my first offer will probably favor me a little bit. I think I tried to trade. I was sending a trades to Zach, and he was like, it's a good trade, but like it doesn't, like I don't know, it doesn't really, it's a purely lateral move for him. And I was like, that's fine. Like, you can tell me like that's totally fine. But like my first trade will generally try and favor me a little bit. But like I don't know, if you're sending just horrible offers because you think you take advantage of someone because you did once, like to me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I think
You're wasting everyone's time.
this is good trade talk. Which also makes me think, try to attack position of need. If you're abundant at wide receiver, find someone who's not and try to get running back from them.
I do that constantly. I'm
Yeah,
always looking at rosters.
flipping a receiver for receiver is gonna be a lot harder than flipping a receiver for a running back or a quarterback or a tight end.
That's a good point.
All
Yeah.
right. I think we're starting to get to our time. Did anybody track it? We have a couple questions left, but
I think we still got a few.
all right, we kind of touched on the other questions we had. If you guys want to just throw any extra comments out there. One of them is, do you hold or do you sell if you're tanking? So say you have a really bad team, you've got one or two good players that are young. So they could fit a timeline, but they are also, instead of getting the 1-1 overall, you're gonna end up with a 1-3 because you have a player like a Breece Hall or a player like a Naji Harris last year. What do you think, Mitch, is the best thing to do in that scenario?
I think you should hold on to your young players that are good. And I'm not talking about guys that are rookies that are good. Like if you have Drake London and you're tanking, like obviously you're not going to trade him away because he's he's just starting his career. But if you have guys, and I don't know, I can't really think of any names at this point in time, but if you're looking at wide receivers that are like 25, 26, like
I think Hollywood Brown is this year's example.
okay. If you have a bad team, you have Hollywood Brown, hang on to him. You can trade him, but there's no reason to sell him. Like he has his whole career still ahead of him. He's got 3-4 years left in the league. He looks great. You can mount a 3-year rebuild and he can be, like a Tyler Lockett on this year's team in 4 years and be putting up production and somebody you hung on to that you never had to pay a whole lot of money for, and he's on your roster. And it's that's the type of person you want on a winning team 3 years down the road. You don't need to sell him. So
So-
what, moving from the 101 to the 103?
So what if you are not doing good and you have, say like Derrick Henry,
So
and you're actually, I guess, in a rebuild. So, and you have Derrick Henry and he's giving you points every week on your roster. And, the ultimate goal, I guess, the tanking goal, and I get it, is that you want to try to get that 101. And the only way you're going to get the 101 is if your potential points for are the lowest. So if you have a player on your team that's scoring you a lot of points, or that's scoring Derrick Henry type points, you're not really helping your draft position, keeping Derrick Henry on your roster. So there's that aspect. And then say, what if Derrick Henry is your only running back, really? Do you still trade him and not have a running back and try to draft a running back, or try to trade for one? Or I guess that's the scenario we're kind of looking at. So if you're not competing and you're going for drafts, do you
sell them.
sell?
I
Your
would
player.
rather, I touched on it earlier, I'd rather sell a player like that, even a little under what they should go for. Because realistically, he's not going to fit your timeline, right? Derrick Henry's not going to be there when you're trying to compete.
3 years, yeah. No
So I'd
chance.
rather get a little under, you're going to try and get value, shop him around. If you don't get what you think is appropriate, I'd rather sell him for a little bit less and get his points off my potential points and get the better draft position there. If he's young and he fits my timeline, then I'll keep him, but I don't think he's worth holding on to if he's not going to fit your timeline.
What do you say?
I would say wait for the right trade. Hang on to him a little bit, see what's going on. If you've got one good player on your team, chances are that's not really affecting your potential points. I think you could look at like kind of we could build a weird scenario where it's like, oh, well, what should you do? But you look at a lot of teams and you can kind of feel out the league and it's like, okay, where am I at potential points right now? Well, if I didn't have Derrick Henry putting up 25 points a week, like I'd be a lot closer to that 101. I need to move him to get the 101. If I'm tanking, I'm just looking for like a top 5, top 6 pick. I'm not looking to get the 101 because I think you have to give up a lot. You have to break your team down to nothing, or you have a completely garbage team and you're looking at like a 3-year tank. I don't like that idea personally.
Yeah.
I think
Also-
I have a couple teams that are on that track.
Also, for everyone who's watching, don't listen to me because I'm a huge hypocrite. I did sell Hollywood Brown earlier this year on my team that's tanking, and I regret it big time. So I guess 1, I'm a hypocrite. 2, I'm speaking from a place of pain. Like I think a young stud like that is worth holding on to. But I value the 1-1, a lot more in the 1-3, 1-4. Even if you think the top few players are in the same tier, you might find somebody who doesn't believe that. And then you can flip your 1-1 for the 1-4 plus or something like that. When it comes to draft season, people start getting antsy again. So I think having that asset is worth a lot more than maybe getting an extra second or an extra small taxi piece on top of the trade for the older player you made.
Yeah, I get those. I get that with both your scenarios, but so when you're tanking, how far do you go on tanking? So I don't think you go as far as Jason K did on his Detroit team where he has no players. Because
Yeah,
if you're actually
I wouldn't
tanking,
do
you gotta keep some players, because you're not going to be able to build your team with the draft.
Yeah.
So my philosophy, if I'm rebuilding, and that's I never say I'm tanking. I'm building back better. I'm not rebuilding. So I always make sure I have at least one decent quarterback, a decent running back, a decent receiver, and maybe a tight end, maybe not, because I think I could trade for one. So at least I want to make sure I have at least one solid position player in each position to build back better. Because if not, you're just, I think you're you're killing yourself. It's going to take you 3 or 4 years to build your team up, unless you trade those picks for something. So in the case where this guy, if he has Derrick Henry, if that's his only running back, then you may hold on to him, or you may try to trade him for a younger running back.
Yeah.
Somebody like let's see,
Well,
somebody
honestly,
like a
J.K. Dobbins.
Stevenson.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't like
Yeah, I don't-
Dobbins. I'm throwing a name of a young under.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of getting a pick and a
Okay.
player. So because really, if you're trading Derrick Henry, you want a pick,
What about like
especially
a,
if you're tanking.
And if you're
a high second and a Michael Carter? Do you like that? Because that's the kind of young
Yep.
running back you would get, I think. And to me, that's not exciting if I'm rebuilding.
Yeah,
don't-
I mean like a Singletary maybe, or a Ramondre Stevenson,
Cook.
something like that. A what?
James Cook.
I think something like that would.
I don't think you need to go out and try and move that player necessarily. If you've got like 1-2 guys putting up points, like you don't need to be sending trades out. But like people will come to you like weeks 9, 10, 11. Okay, they're whatever, 1 game over 500 and 100 points outside of the wild card or something. I don't know. Like they're right there. They'll come to you and they'll try and get that player. I don't think you need to go and actively make that happen, but I don't think you need to also be like, I can't trade him because I need him for next year, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can so I have a team that and actually I kind of like Adrian, what he said about rebuilding. I think if you're trying to go for the 101, like you have to tank, like you have to actually tank, but you can rebuild without tanking per se. Like you can rebuild with middle of the first round picks. Like certainly you can do that. You can add depth to your team without like sacrificing players to just get, because I think some people think about this idea of tanking. It's like, oh, well, I need 4 first round picks next year. You just don't rebuild your team in a year like that. Like that just doesn't happen. So I actually kind of like that idea of rebuilding. I look at one of my teams or my team at 32 and it's a rebuild. It's not really a tank. I don't have a good record and I'm not trying to win, but like I'm starting my best lineup. I've got a lot of potential points on my team with like Drake London and Damian Pierce. Like they're going to score lots of points. I'm okay not getting the 101. I'm just going to rebuild. I know I'll get a better first round pick than if I had better players, but does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because if you have a 7-person roster and you have 3 or 4 players already that are decent, you're only 3 people out, 3 players out from having possibly a contending team.
Right.
Whereas if you're selling away all your players just for draft picks, then it's going to take 7 picks, 5 to 6 picks,
Yeah.
and hoping that they actually are good enough to compete, which most of the time they're not, usually in their first year. So
I think that's why in our leagues with taxi squads, though, it makes it possible. Because you can have 2 or 3 usable players on taxi, draft a couple more. You got to obviously draft right in order to get those taxi players, but I think it does allow for a more legitimate tank if that's the route you choose.
yeah, but it just takes longer.
Yeah,
That's the whole point.
I'll report back in about 3 years as my GA team is in a hard tank. Yeah, I got Breece Hall on taxi. I got Jameson Williams on taxi, and that's pretty much it. And then Deontay Johnson playing.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. It's very ugly. I do think it's usually easier if you do it the way you two said, where you try to just retool. But at some point, if you've got old aging players, retooling is going to be a lot harder than just tearing it down.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is like, I've heard this thrown around a little bit. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, I mean, like you put money into these teams. Okay. I think if you make the playoffs, you at least make your money back, right?
Yep. Successful year if you make the playoffs in my book.
Yeah. So are you trying to make the playoffs every year, or are you trying to win the league? If you're trying to win the league, it's going to be a little harder to do that retooling year to year to year. You could maybe make the right trade and end up with a good team, I think. But if you're like, I'm going to win the league in 5 years. Okay. it's going to be hard to do that. I think retooling year to year to year, personally.
Here's my last thoughts on it. If you are rebuilding, say you have 2023 firsts, don't feel like you have to use them all. If you can get a good young player for one of those firsts, don't be scared to do it.
I like that. That's a good.
Buy somebody who has, even if it's just been for one season, shown they can produce at this level. Don't go out with spending them all just if you feel like you have to. But if the opportunity presents itself, don't be scared.
Yeah. And those picks are worth way more the closer you get to the rookie draft.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. The final question we had, we've kind of touched on as well. Basically, if you have good players in your taxi squad, do you promote them or do you let them kind of sit and rot to help preserve your draft position? Adrian, I think I know what you'll say here. So I think if you have a good player in your taxi squad and your team sucks, keep them there for your points for, because they won't count against you in draft position. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I mean, we can look at it a little bit different too, is, if you're, say you're not competing at all, but you're tanking. Let's say you're tanking, so you probably don't want to promote your player from taxi. But what if you're like in the middle of the pack and you're like, man, this one person can possibly help me. So because I was in a situation where I had Olave on taxi, and I have Tyreek Hill and Mooney. Mooney wasn't getting it done. So, I promoted Olave to try to help me kind of move forward. So in cases like that, I think you should probably promote if you have a shot or you think you have a shot. But if you're rebuilding, I mean, like you said, I mean, I don't disagree leaving them on your taxi, because it'll help obviously your draft position. Even though I don't believe in going to the extreme like some people do, but yeah, I have no issue with leaving them on your taxi. But you, Mitch?
I think I mess this one up all the time. I don't really know when's a good time to promote. In my 32 team, I had too many picks, so I had to promote people, and I promoted the best players on my taxi squad to my active roster. And somebody was like, well, why'd you do that? Because now they're going to score points for you. And they are scoring points for me. And so at the time I was like, well, they make my team better. And the person I was talking to was like, well, your team kind of blows anyway. So it took you from like a really bad team to just like not a great team. That's certainly not going to get a 101 or any, like a top 5 pick, probably not going to get any of that because you promoted those 2 players. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. Like I wasn't competing and I'm still not competing. And now I've moved down in the draft pick. I screwed it up. Like I have like garbage players on my taxi squad and they're just there in case, like, I don't know what to do with them. I feel like I shouldn't drop them because like.
Drop them now, no, but I mean, when the draft comes around next year, just get rid of them.
Yeah. So for me, I have more questions about that than like answers and opinions. Like I said, I think I screwed up a lot.
Yeah, there's probably more trash players on people's taxi than there are good players.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I got
good players on rosters.
Yeah, I got like Danny Gray and Tristan Ebner. Like I don't even know who these people are. but like they're on my taxi, and I'm like, maybe they'll hit. Like I've got them. Can't drop
them. So to pivot from this, I mentioned before we started recording that I have one start sit decision for this week. I want to run by you, which I think people that are watching, listening in our Discord in our leagues. We record Tuesday nights. If you're looking at your roster for next week and you have a question, just send it to one of us and we can kind of talk it out on the show for you. Not for you. We can give our opinions. They're usually wrong, so just do the opposite of what we say. But it'll be out Wednesday morning more often than not. And then you can kind of hear that and get some idea of what your league mates and common thinking players would do if they were in your situation. So this week I am making a decision between Melvin Gordon on Monday night versus the Chargers or David Montgomery tomorrow versus Washington. Montgomery is supposedly healthy and playing, and he played last.
Say that again.
David Montgomery versus Washington or Melvin Gordon versus the Chargers.
Ooh,
Don't the Chargers have one of the worst run defenses right now?
Yeah.
So I would lean Chargers
I don't know. Damian Pierce went off on them.
on the Chargers.
Yeah.
For the
He had his
Commanders.
longest run of the season. But I mean, that was a one-off. I mean, it's a long run.
I would say Melvin Gordon because of the limited competition in the backfield.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. It just feels gross sitting Montgomery because he's far more talented at this point. But
I would start Montgomery.
you would start who?
Montgomery.
Oh, thanks.
Just I mean, because
What's going on, Adrian? I don't even know how you're doing that.
Washington's run defense has not been especially good this year either.
yeah, but they're utilizing Boone a lot too.
Yeah,
I mean, so he's not really the
only
only.
got 1 week of Gordon as the one. So I don't fully know what to expect. All right, well, not very helpful. So thank you.
My
both.
bet is with Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, God, I'm looking at numbers now. Montgomery outcarried Herbert 12-4 last week in his first game back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you worry about Montgomery is health. But
Right. And just not scoring points because the Bears don't score.
Yeah, the Bears are going to be
well, they don't pass.
losing.
They don't pass, but they.
Broncos the
they
second
definitely
lowest on offensive football this year, only ahead of the Broncos.
Yeah, but look at what Herbert. I mean, he did well when he was in there and Montgomery was out. They're going to run the ball.
All right, well, I have to decide quick. It's Thursday night game, so I'll sleep on it. Appreciate it.
You're welcome for all the help.
Yep. If Jason was here, you would have a tiebreaker. But
No deciding vote. If anybody's listening, DM me.
He'd say sit on both.
If anyone's listening before the game on Thursday, DM me and you'll be my deciding vote. Not you, Wes, because I know you'll lead me astray on purpose.
Just do the opposite of what he said.
Well, then it's me playing mind games, and maybe he's telling me his actual to get in my head. He also has only traded me Melvin Gordon, so it's like maybe he's really trying to mess with me, and I should play Montgomery and ignore him. Wes and I have a complicated relationship.
I'm just looking at Adrian. I can't figure out what's going on over there.
That's our sign to get out of here.
But I like
wait.
it.
So I'm on Zoom calls all the time, and so this one doesn't have the filters that I have usually on my work. So you can actually be like an animal or something like that, like a full animal,
I don't
like
even.
an avatar type thing. But I was just
I like it. Can you see us in 3D right now? You're gonna go watch Avatar after this?
absolutely.
Love Avatar.
Again, you like it better the second time?
Hard to answer because the first time I saw it, I was like 16, maybe. Is that about when it came out? 17? And
Yeah.
everything when I was that age was awesome. But I do think it's a good movie. They got kind of shit on for a decade because we're like, what the hell is that movie about? What are these blue people doing with their tails? But I think it's genuinely good, and we as a society should respect it more.
Right.
That's my Justin's movie minute.
Nice. Good minute. Good movie. Minute. By Justin.
Yep. All right. Talk to you
All right.
later.
Yeah. Peace
Good
out.
stuff. Good stuff. So hope you like the little pivot that we did for this show. So I guess we'll get some feedback from the Discord how it was, and hopefully Jason doesn't get rid of us all next week because we pivoted. But thanks for listening. Always appreciate the input that we get, on these podcasts. If you want to hear anything different, or if you like this, bringing topics up, definitely put some information in the Discord, and we'll definitely bring that up. Or if you want to explain yourself, Tony sent me a DM explaining a situation why he had a player that was out in his lineup. And he was part of my Come On Man last week, and so he had to kind of Yeah, he kind of had to explain himself because he left some people on his lineup this week that were that ended up not playing. So he said, "Hey, let me just tell you what happened." So he was at work. I know he works, shift work. So he was at work and couldn't change his lineup, and so it was all good. So appreciate that feedback, Tony. So Tony's a good guy. I like him.
Did the Braves win?
Yep,
Good. For
They
you.
did.
yep, 3-0. 1-1 going to Philly. There's rumors of bringing back the get to know your league mates from way back
Yes.
in the day. So I will most likely be bullying people into jumping on a Zoom call with hopefully Renee, if she's able to find the time. And we'll start to get to know people because that was a segment I know a lot of people enjoyed, including myself.
Yep, I enjoyed it too. So hopefully Renee, once if she gets some time, she can bring that segment up. I think it was something that was real neat, putting a face to the Discord. So yeah, definitely. If you are somebody that wants to be involved with that, just definitely let us know. I know Kyle, I think, said he would do something like that. So hopefully he will. But just let us know.
But you just volunteered them if not. So
Exactly. So appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I guess we'll be back to full strength next week.
Peace out.
Yep.
see you.